let's get into the match preview. Tottenham, Brighton. As I said before, it's important as we're the first game to lay down that marker, let the other teams carry on, do the chasing, and hopefully not give them a hope in hell, really, to catch us. But it's going to be maybe a more difficult game than we were looking at it maybe a week ago, because they went to Arsenal last week and won. Do you expect a more confident Brighton coming to Tottenham this weekend?
Yeah, for sure. You have to. I think they changed a few things up, against Arsenal than they had in the previous games. I think that Caicedo made his debut in that game. He had a pretty good game. Obviously, Mwepu was brilliant for Brighton, getting goal and assist, and what a goal he scored. And I think they played really well. I do think Arsenal were still, in terms of territorially, were dominant. But they didn't really have the quality to break Brighton down until the last, a few minutes when they got a goal and they were putting pressure on. But Brighton were fairly comfortable other than that. And after losing 6 games and drawing one of their previous 7, of course, when you finally get that win, confidence will start coming back. And with Graham Potter, how he sets his team up, a lot of the time they're very difficult to play against. I know they lost 6, but before then they weren't losing too many games. They were drawing a lot of games.
Weren't winning any games either.
They weren't. I was saying they were drawing a lot of games. It just meant that just shows that they're tough to play against. They don't usually lose by more than a goal as well a lot of the time. So it's usually fairly close games. I know we've beaten them twice already this season, so we got to have confidence. But
both by more than a goal, wasn't it? Was it 3-1 and 2-0?
3-1 and 2-0, yeah. But you bring up their form, bring up the form table. That we got the graphic here. So they got that win. They've only got 3 goals in their last 5, with 2 of them coming against Arsenal. Conceding 7. Obviously, we're scoring goals for fun at the moment. That's on average 3 a game, 15 in our last 5. But we have conceded 5, so usually conceding a goal a game. Their away form has been home and away. They've been woeful of late, but yeah, I think that result against Arsenal 100% give them confidence, and they got good players. I think Trossard's a good player. Obviously, Lamptey didn't start, but he's a good player. I think I like Lewis Dunk at centre back as well. Obviously, Mwepu was really good against Arsenal. So, and Basuma, obviously, Basuma's a brilliant centre mid. So you can't take it for granted that we're going to turn up and it's just going to be an easy game. We've got to make sure that we turn up with the right attitude. But if we do that and make sure that we're outworking them, then I'm sure we'll have the quality to open them up more times than Arsenal did.
Yeah, and obviously since Antonio has come, we have played them twice, like you say, and beaten them twice. And you say probably both of them quite convincing. I know in the one in the home game in the Cup, Bissouma played really well that game. But apart from that, I thought they were pretty poor that day. And when we went down to the Amex as well, it was quite a convincing win, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think by and large, you got to remember in that game it was fairly close before. I know Kane missed an open goal, but it was from a big mistake, wasn't it, from the defender? And then it was pretty tight. It we weren't exactly opening them up at will, and then we got a stroke of luck, a shot deflects in off Romero, and we go 1-0 up. And then from then on, we were comfortable, and we went on to get a second. But it wasn't the easiest game before that goal. So, Brighton can be quite a solid team, and they like to play 3 at the back as well, so probably going to match up our formation. And they also usually like to play with 2 strikers, and we saw how we struggled against 2 strikers in the first half against Villa with their pressing system as well. So that does worry me a tad in terms of just tactically. But I'm sure that as soon as we start finding spaces, and especially as the game wears on, the spaces will open up massively for us, and then that's when we can really hurt them. So if we can get a goal or 2 in the first half, and force them to open up those spaces, that'll be a massive advantage. Yeah,
obviously, the quality that Villa bring, I think, is much better than what Brighton have in their squad, with the Coutinhos and the Ramseys and the Ingses and the Watkins. But yeah, Brighton can pose their threat on the day. But when you're looking at the kind of head-to-head between the teams, the last 5 games, we'll bring on that graphic. At home, the history books tells you that it's going to be Spurs to win and both teams to score. 3-1, 2-1, 2-1 in our last 3 home games against them. Have we dropped points against them at home since they've come back in the Premier League? I don't think we have we?
No, not at home.
We've won every game, haven't we?
Yeah, we've won every
It's
game.
It's usually away when we really struggle against them. So I'm looking at this game, and look, obviously there's no easy games in the Premier League, but I'm looking at this game thinking that we have to take authority early on, and we have to show them what we've shown them every other time that they come to our stadium and beat them pretty well.
Yeah, and I think as well, playing before Arsenal as well. For it feels like we're always playing after Arsenal recently, isn't it? I can't remember the last time we played before them, but I think.
Well, the last time we played before them was last week when they played Palace.
Right. We have to make sure that we're putting them under pressure, because if they, especially with their struggles they had against Brighton last week, if we turn up and give a convincing display and a convincing win, that will hopefully down their spirits going into their game against Southampton. They're going to have to be up for it if they're going to go there and take 3 points against what can be a tricky side, although they have lost their last few games. So I think it's very, very important we throw down another marker, and we just got to keep throwing down these markers up until it's mathematically impossible, because that's how we get through this race and make sure that we're in the top 4. We can't take any prisoners. We don't want to leave the door open and give them a chance to capitalise. And if we drop points in this game, everyone's going to be saying, Tottenham inconsistent, this is what they do, they can drop points in any game, you can't trust them to get wins. So we have to make sure we shake off that mantle, get the win tomorrow, and that'll be a massive psychologically, that could be big in the top 4, especially with Arsenal playing a bit later.
In terms of Graham Potter, do you think, obviously you're a big fan of Graham Potter, do you think that he's taken Brighton as far as he can now?
Probably, unless they're going to really invest in signings, and they obviously have the team they're never going to spend 50-60 million on players, which would really bring along Potter's project. But I think are Brighton ever going to be higher than just like a mid-table team for the foreseeable future? Probably not. And last season, they obviously were very unlucky in a lot of games. So they finished lower mid-table. This season, they started the season brilliantly. It looked like they'd shaken off that XG mantle where they win on XG, but they lose the game. But I think they won like 5 or they won like 6 of their first 7 games this season. That's probably where a lot of their points have come from, to be honest. That's just that period. But it's going to be hard to keep that up with the team, with the players Brighton have. You're relying on Danny Welbeck and Maupay to get you goals. And I think Maupay's done his best, but he's never going to be that 20-goal-a-season striker they need. And Welbeck has always been consistently an average finisher, hasn't he? Throughout his career, he's never been a good finisher, Danny Welbeck. So I think I think it's difficult for him to take it any further than he has at the moment. The best they could really hope for is a top half finish. Top half is brilliant for Brighton, let's be honest. That's
and they were booing the team off when they were like 7th in the league or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I don't know what they expect. I think their team, they have some good, decent players, but they're not going to be any better than what they're showing at the moment. And I think if they were to decide that they could get better than Potter, I reckon it would be very similar to other managers where you think that, for example, like Alan Kirbishley, he was like mid-table for like 10 years or something with Charlton, and they thought finally, you know what, we're a bit better than him now, let's try and improve. They got rid of him. They've never been back in the Premier League since. And I think it could be similar if Potter ever left Brighton, that they would go on a bit of a decline.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Bring up the next graphic, which is the team which could be facing us. Obviously, do you think this is the formation they're going to go with? A 3 centre-back, like a 3-5-2?
Yeah, I mean, they've been in their run of 6 defeats. They've kind of been what do you call it? Not practicing, but trying new formations out. They've gone with 4 at the back, gone back to 3 at the back. They've kind of been just trying them out because nothing's been working.
Is Potter the new Tinkerman?
He's had to be, because nothing's been working for him recently. So he's just trying to change things up. And he went back to a back 3 on Saturday, and that finally got them some joy against Arsenal. So I'm expecting them to carry that on, go with the back 3 again. And Villa, as I said, they had 3 in the middle and 2 up front. And that caused us problems. I know the quality was different, but a lot of it was tactically finding spaces in behind Bentancur and exploiting that, and outnumbering us in the middle a lot for the first half as well. So they couldn't. Then maybe they'll see that as a blueprint to try and hurt us and follow suit. And with their pressing system, and Brighton can be a very good pressing team when they're on top of their game. And with if they do have renewed confidence, that's something to watch out for. But in terms of quality, you look at that team and you think there's no one you're really specifically worried about. Maybe Trossard, but he's a bit inconsistent. Basuma's obviously very good in the middle, but there's no one who you're thinking we should have problems dealing with them. You know what I mean, on an individual basis. But it's all about their system. They can play pretty decently within their system, but other teams have been able to figure them out recently, and we just got to make sure we're on top of our game. And if we're confident, we're sharp, there's only going to be one winner. But if we come into it with lethargic, turning up thinking we just got to turn up and win and it'll be easy, then you will come into a bit of trouble. And I think maybe Arsenal, I'm not sure they took their eye off the ball, but they were tinkering a lot. I don't know if they really believed how difficult it was going to be against Brighton last week, and I think maybe that was part of the problem.
Yeah, because they were on a really good run before that Crystal Palace game, and that Brighton at home was probably one of the best fixtures that they could have hoped for. Either Brighton at home or Norwich at home were the two most off-form teams in the Premier League. And yeah, I think you're right. They probably did take their eye off the ball a little bit. But going back onto that Brighton team, are you worried at all in terms of them beefing up the midfield with three men in there with Mwepu, Bissouma and one other against our two-man midfield?
Yeah, that's something that we have struggled with occasionally, especially when Winks has been in there. We've definitely struggled with it. When more about when Bentancur and Højbjerg are there, I think they cover enough ground where you don't really see the problems. It was good when we had Doherty there because he could also step into midfield and provide an extra man. With him gone, Emerson doesn't really do that much, does he? He likes to stay wide. So but Kane also likes to drop in, so he also becomes like an extra man sometimes. That helps. But they have got a very energetic centre midfield. Bissouma, Mwepu looks like he can run all day and night, doesn't he? The way he plays.
He was brilliant against Arsenal. Both of them were, to be fair.
He was fantastic. I don't know who usually the third one is, or maybe Gross or some Lallana, but he's injured, so I don't think it's going to be him. McAllister likes to play in the hole a bit further up. So Caicedo, I know, made his debut against Arsenal, so maybe he's going to be that one. And if them three play, it's not going to be easy to, especially when we have the ball, to make sure when we're opening up the right spaces because they can cover a lot of ground. So that is something definitely to watch out for. But if we're smart about it, and maybe it could be even a case of allowing them a bit of possession to invite them onto us, and then, or even playing it short, drawing them out a bit, like we're very good at doing, and then hitting them very quickly when the spaces open up. That's going to be a lot of the places where we get a lot of joy from. Because Brighton, as much as they're not very good at scoring, they are a brave team in the sense that they don't usually sit very deep. They like to play a lot with a lot of possession. They like to press. They like to press you, and that's maybe where they're coming unstuck. Maybe they've been a bit naive recently in terms of how they've played, and they've been found out a bit. And maybe they'll come with a bit of pragmatic approach. But I don't see them as a pragmatic team, Brighton. I see them as a team who are brave on the ball, and maybe when you're so brave without the quality, that can be where you get unstuck.
Bring up the next graphics, the ones to watch. Obviously, Mwepu's in there. 3 goals, 5 assists. I mean, I was shocked when I saw that because the first time I saw him was against Arsenal and I was blown away. I thought he was so good in that game. And then obviously Match of the Day did a whole segment on him, didn't they? The other player there, I think that's McAllister, is it? 4 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah, Alex McAllister. Decent little player.
Yeah, who's, slightly on form recently. So there are players to watch out for, aren't there?
He's
in
an
that
international,
Argentina, yeah.
Yeah, Argentinian international.
One of those Scottish Argentinians.
Yeah, it's funny. McAllister playing for Argentina, you wouldn't think it. But to be fair to him, yeah, you got to be, look, with the talent Argentina have, you have to be somewhat of a good player to get into their squad, even if it's a one-off thing. And I remember he said in his, he was talking about his time over with Argentina, and he said that they were calling him well, they speak Spanish today. Is it Spanish they speak? Yeah, must be. He said so, yeah. They were saying in Spanish they were calling him the little ginger or something, and he said he didn't like it, and Messi had to come and not protect him, but tell him look, stop calling him that. He doesn't like it. He said it felt so good having Messi back you up, something like that. It's unbelievable. But he's a good little player, McAllister. I don't think he's a player who we should be looking at to sign or anything, even though we do need a number 10. But I do think he's been decent, and he's young as well. McAllister, he's like 22 or something. He's a good little tricky player, and if you don't watch him, then he can hurt you. But he's one where you can, like, Romero will eat him for dinner kind of thing if he gets anywhere near him.
And Romero will know him well as well.
Yeah,
spending time with him
exactly.
in the Argentinian camp. All right, so what?
But yeah, to back on Mwepu, what a brilliant performance against Arsenal. He's actually, I've seen him a few times, and he's looks like he has so much running in his legs. It's unbelievable.
Would you consider him for Spurs?
I don't know about that. It's a bit early to say. He's
when
played
did he
well.
Join? Did he join in January?
No, he's beginning of the season, I think.
Right.
I think he joined. It looks like it does, at the face of it, look like another good bit of scouting from Brighton, which they rely on, isn't it? Because, as I said, they're not one to spend big money, so they have to rely on good scouting network and finding unearthed talent from, other leagues, which teams aren't really well versed, and they get a lot from South America and stuff, didn't they? They signed that striker in January, didn't they? They had a really good record in South America, and they never play him. I can't remember his name.
I'm not sure.
They did sign someone, didn't they, in January?
Yeah.
They signed a striker, and they never play him. I can't remember his name. But they rely on that good scouting. But Mwepu's one who's definitely going to be riding a wave of good form after that performance. And what a goal he scored with half volley.
They signed him for 20 million.
Who, Mwepu?
Yeah, from Salzburg.
Oh, so maybe he's not the... No, but he's not the striker, is he?
No, I'm just saying. They signed him for 20 million.
Salzburg have a good...
They signed a striker from Union SG, who are top of the Belgian league, called Undav. He hasn't played much.
They never play him. He had a good record in the Belgian league. Maybe he's not up to it. But in Mwepu, Salzburg have a good conveyor belt of talent, don't they?
They've got massive conveyor belt.
And so signing him from him shows he probably is a decent player, and he's showing at the moment how good he can be. But I think as well, like Arsenal, for example, for that first goal, I know he got the assist, but he had the freedom of that right-hand side to pick someone out and have all the time in the world, and he won't have that on Saturday.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But let's hope. Well, in terms of like the Spurs, who are you backing? I know we're going to do our predicted lineup a bit later, but do you think that Emerson is definitely going to start this weekend? Or do you think maybe Sessegnon could be moved over to the right-hand side?
No, I think Emerson has been all right past couple games. So I don't think he's going to want to damage confidence by dropping him without reason, without cause. So I think Emerson definitely gets the shirt. Also, Emerson... it wasn't his goal, but he kind of claimed it, didn't he? That goal in the FA Cup, and it took a massive deflection, and he ran over to the bench, cupping his ear, didn't he? Like he had a point to prove. That was against Brighton, wasn't it? So I don't think Conte's going to have any reservations playing Emerson in this game. He'll play him, but he's going to have to show even half the ability in the final third that Doherty showed. You know what I mean? Because at the moment he's been again very good at like on the right hand side, covering a lot of ground and getting in good areas, but his quality in the final third and decision making and vision hasn't shown to be the best, I should say. So I think he has to. Hopefully, he improves on that massively if he's going to keep his place in the team. Otherwise, I don't think Conte will have any reservations about putting Sessegnon there in the future.
We've got a comment here saying Undav got loaned back to Union SG as Tony Bloom, the owner of Brighton, owns both clubs.
Right, that's why he never plays. So maybe it's one for next season, is it?
Yeah, I never knew that he owned them as well. They're doing really well in the Belgian league this year. They really are. But anyway, what's our score predictions going into the game tomorrow?
I think, given that they're going to be confident, I do think they'll come and they might get a goal. But I do think as well that the form we're on, the momentum we have, should see us through, and the quality we're playing with, even though Doherty's now injured, which will be backing Emerson to step up. So I think Reguilon comes in on the left wing back, and I think we win the game 3-1. I'm sure there's going to be many moments where we're opening the door with Kane and Son in that form, and Kulusevski as well. I think we should have too much for Brighton, and hopefully if we win early in the day, that should throw a gauntlet down to Arsenal saying, all right, what can you do? And hopefully that the pressure gets to them again. But I'm going with a 3-1 win. Yeah,
it's interesting because we usually do concede a goal to Brighton at home. But we did go to the Amex a few weeks ago and did keep a clean sheet in a 2-0 win. And I'm backing us to keep a clean sheet again. I mean, I said earlier on in the week in the podcast, I said 5-0. After that, I said 4-0. Last night, they asked me on Shelfside Spurs. I said 3-0. So
Going down and down.
I'm going to stick with 3-0. I'm not going to go any lower. And I actually think it's going to be a big one for Kane this weekend. I'm going for Kane hat-trick in a 3-0 win, yeah.
Wow, all 3 goals.
All 3 goals for Harry Kane this weekend. I think... you know, he's gone the last 3 games without scoring a goal, but obviously he's been brilliant either way. So I just think he's going to get on the score sheet and cause those Seagulls a bit of a nightmare this weekend. So that will really lay down that gauntlet to Arsenal and to the teams for chasing that top 4. And what do you think goes through Arsenal's mind if we do win that quite convincingly?
Yeah, and I think that, again, they look at it and we've seen the pressure, how it's been getting to them recently, and if they see no let up in Tottenham pressure and they see another convincing win against a team who they struggled badly with last week and even lost the game, I think that negatively affects them. And I'm hoping they're watching. As I said, there's nothing more demoralising than watching a team hoping they drop points and then winning convincingly. And that, you just lose all hope. And knowing that you have to win just to keep pace, let alone, because there's a very difference in psychology winning a game to overtake an opponent or winning to extend an advantage, and winning just to keep pace. That's always...
We've been there many times, haven't we?
And it's always a lot more difficult psychologically. So I think it definitely increases the chances of Arsenal dropping points if we win. I really believe that.
Do you think that, well, someone just mentioned it in the comments here, but I was about to ask you the question. Do you think if we win and Arsenal lose this weekend, is that the race over? With the fixtures Arsenal coming up?
If we win and Arsenal don't win or lose?
Either way, let's say lose.
I mean, it'll need a miracle. It needs a minor miracle at this point. If they, yeah. I mean, I guess you always got to look at United. So also, they're 6 points, aren't they, United? So they got Liverpool on midweek, don't they? Is the race? I wouldn't say it's over because you don't want to take your eye off the ball, but I would have to say
firm favourites.
It would
massive favourites.
You'd have to. You can't, it would be a stage where you can't ignore the reality that it looks very likely we're getting top 4 if that happens, if they lose that. And I think I think the chances of it being over before the North London derby increase massively.
Yeah.
If that was to be the case this week, but you got to remember as well, if Arsenal, if they win on Saturday, and I know that Chelsea is going to be a tough game, but they do have that game in hand midweek, so all of a sudden they'll go into the game with good feeling, won't they? And they beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge last year. I know it was a lucky game, but they did win. So they might be feeling all of a sudden in a week's time, you could be looking at us being level points with them if they win on Saturday. However unlikely that scenario is.
I am a lot more confident about that Chelsea-Arsenal game as I was before because, Chelsea weren't playing well. But since that 4-1 loss to Brentford, they've actually been really good, haven't they? Obviously beat Southampton, was it 6-0? Then they deserved to beat Real Madrid and just about Real Madrid got over the line there. So I think that Chelsea are going to end the season quite strongly.
No, I do agree with you, and I don't believe that Arsenal can win. All I'm saying is, even though we could win and go 6 points clear of them before they play, there is a possibility, there is a world where we could be back level on points of Arsenal by the next time we play a game, and that's out of our hands. We just have to rely on them being as bad as they've been in the last 2 games, and we'll see how they play, because maybe it is entirely possible that Arteta will have a rethink after he completely overthought last game, and he might have find a new way to get a different
rethink
balance.
To underthink.
Exactly, and I think because Lacazette apparently didn't trade last couple of games, so maybe it's a case of they put Martinelli up front and they look a lot more effective. You know what I mean? Because he's a good young player, Martinelli. All of a sudden they start looking a lot creative again. So I wouldn't say it's over yet, even if we win on Saturday. But if we win and they drop points, man, is it looking bad for them?
Yeah. All right, well, that is our match preview for the game tomorrow, 12:30 kickoff at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.